What's going on, guys? This is your man Jose, the Dominican Dream, and this is the Boxing Roundtable. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We're also on Apple, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and of course here on YouTube. The Boxing Roundtable. I'm here with my man,
The Maniac.
and we are ready to talk boxing once again. Edgar Berlanga versus Jason Quigley. That's what the people want to talk about. That's what's hot. Of course, the same night, we also had Carlos Adames, the Dominican fighter, versus
J-Rock.
J-Rock Williams, Julian Williams, out of Philly. Us boxing fans, we want constant fights and constant boxing events, and that's what we've been getting lately, and that trend will continue.
Yes.
Sean, you were there at the fight.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw. You know, usually I break things down first, but I'm going to let people listen to you break this fight down.
Yeah.
What did you see?
So, man, let's be clear.
For the Berlanga fight.
Yes, let's be clear. His last couple of fights, he just hasn't been there, right? Very underwhelming performances by him. Most people felt like this guy's not going to be the chosen one, like his nickname. But he showed improvement. From what I saw this Saturday, the guy boxed better. He was composed, and he took his time. He didn't rush anything. Now, the kid still got flaws. He could pump that jab more. He could go to the body more. But there's things like him cutting off the ring. He still has defensive flaws. But we did wanted to see an improved Edgar Berlanga, and that's what we saw, Dream. We saw an improved Edgar Berlanga. Did we see a superstar performance? No, we didn't see a superstar performance. Did we see someone that we can't wait to see in the ring again? No. But he's a Puerto Rican from New York City, and he still has a fan base. Because I was there live, and I saw he had a solid crowd there for him. So, for me, after what I saw, we know that these are the opponents for him. I want to hear what you had this, what you saw from the fight. But these are going to be the opponents after you do your breakdown. Obviously, there's Billy Joe Saunders, right? This is super middleweight. We have John Ryder. We have Triple G. We have Jaime Munguia. Those are realistic fights that can happen based on promotional companies from these fighters. I'll give his performance a B-. You tell me what you saw.
Berlanga, as we all know, for those of you who don't know, Berlanga's a Puerto Rican fighter out of Brooklyn who was who was highly touted and was being hyped up because of his knockout power and his consecutive run of, I think it was first round knockout.
15 straight.
With a fighter like that, we're always going to have questions because what happens when he goes into the second, third, fourth, fifth, past the fifth round? Does he have other skills to utilize? And I told Sean, I think that I agree with Sean in that Edgar made an improvement. He made improvements as far as he looked to be a bit more patient. He looked I saw him put the earmuffs on a little bit, so he looked like he worked on his defense as well. And I think he was a bit more versatile with his shots. He wasn't seeking for the knockout, only going for head punches. He was mixing it up to the body. He wasn't using much of a jab, and his feet did resemble Canelo's in that they look like they're stuck in cement.
Flat-footed.
And I didn't see him cut off the ring in any kind of spectacular way. Do I think that he's gonna be an all-time great? No. Do I think that if those of you who are waiting for him to be something special, he's not gonna be something special. Something special is, we talk about something special. Errol Spence, Teofimo Lopez, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson. Looks like we still have to see him with better opposition. Yeah. These are fighters that we can see. We see all the tools. We see all the talent early on. Yes. With Berlanga, he kind of reminds me of the Canelo build-up process. Yes, Canelo has attained a lot in his career, moving up different weight classes and having a a good resume as time has gone on, but
Yeah.
it took him about 40 fights to get there. So I think that Berlanga is not gonna have the opportunity to fight 40 cab drivers, and then so he's gonna have to step it up quicker than Canelo.
Yes.
His opponents, listen, both guys are calling out top dogs. They're both fighting for the zone. These guys that I'm gonna mention. Berlanga being one of them, and that's Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia fights with the zone. He's been fighting with the zone for a while, and Berlanga just joined the zone. They both want Canelo. They both want Charlo. They both want, but no, you guys got to make that happen. In order to make that happen, you got to take steps to get there, and and those steps might be each other, And if Canelo is, the rumor has it, as everyone probably knows by now, that Canelo's gonna fight Charlo.
No, it's official.
Okay.
Now it's official.
You say it's official. So
Yeah.
so we gotta rule those two fighters out. At least Munguia's not gonna fight Charlo. Neither is Munguia gonna fight Canelo.
Correct.
Nor is Canelo gonna fight Berlanga.
Yes.
So what does Berlanga do next? You mentioned Billy Joe Saunders. I don't know when was the last time that I saw him in the ring.
John Ryder.
You know what? That right there, I think that is a good measuring stick. But remember that John Ryder also said that he would retire if he would lose that fight to Canelo because he was at the tail end of his career. Can the zone and I don't know who's promoting Berlanga. Is it Eddie Hearn?
Yeah, that was his debut.
Okay.
With Matchroom and the Zone.
So if a Matchroom, gives enough money to John Ryder to come back out of what he called to be retirement. If they lure him with enough cash, I'm sure that he'll come back. And he after looking at Berlanga's performance and after him having a decent performance against Canelo, I think he might say, you know what, I got a little something. I could beat this guy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good measuring stick for Berlanga if he wants the Canelos and the Charlos and anyone else. Of course, unfortunately, my man Andrade is not going to get a piece of neither of those guys. Yeah. And he's a guy who, I think should have definitely have been given the opportunity to fight a top name. Unfortunately, he has not. We know that he made an alliance or he signed with PBC. So perhaps we're going to get the Charlo fight, and that is no, because he was going to fight the 160 Charlo.
So what happens is Boo Boo, Demetrius Andre, he's at 168. He's PBC. So the rumor has it at first, because as we know, Canelo signed a 3-fight deal, $100 million with PBC, right? So that first fight starts this September, which is going to be Jermell Charlo. Most can assume and speculate the second fight is going to be Benavidez. We shall see. The third fight, again, speculate was going to be maybe Boo Boo. But now they threw a wrench in that. They talking about Errol Spence.
That's what they're talking about.
Because Errol Spence has said that's more natural for him. He walks around on that weight. Yeah. So is that something that we can see down the line? If Spence beats Crawford, or let's say they split, Crawford wins the first fight, the second fight Spence wins, decides, listen, I don't want the trilogy. Now I go north to 168 and fight a Canelo. That'd be a mega fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the talk of that so early, especially given that both guys have to have fights in front of them. Plus, at the end of the day, Errol Spence is currently at 147 pounds, and Canelo Alvarez is a guy who's fought as high as 175 and even flirted with cruiserweight.
Yes.
So, I think let's just slow down and wait for things to play out, because a lot of just like in your neighborhood, just like in your workplace, in boxing there are also rumors and false rumors. I mean, we thought we were gonna get that Benavidez and Morrell was signed, and that was the news, or that they had agreed, and Benavidez said no, that wasn't true. He said that he was looking to fight Munguia, but if he couldn't get Munguia, that he would fight Morrell. And you know that's very respectable of David Benavidez to say that and to do that, and I think he would, and I think he does beat Morrell. I think Morrell is a good fighter, a dangerous fighter, but I simply don't think he has the experience with only 7, 8, 9 fights to deal with a guy of the experience of Benavidez, who has those intangibles. You know, not only the speed, the power, or the skill set, but he has the intangible, that will. You can't really measure that only by seeing him perform. And we even saw that against Caleb Plant, where he looked weak and drained early on, but still, as the fight heated up and in the later rounds, he became Benavidez again and just battered Caleb Plant to a 12-round decision.
You know, look, man, there's no fighter out there that deserves the Canelo fight more than Benavidez. Let's cut it out, guys. We know that. Charlo, don't get me wrong, he's undefeated. He's the WBC champion at 160. By it, he hasn't fought in 2 years. Oh, he hasn't fought. But Charlo was going to have to fight somebody eventually. Why not Canelo? Charlo's still a top fighter in boxing, period. So if you're going to tell me we're not going to get Benavidez Canelo, instead you're going to get Charlo Canelo, I take that. I take that without a doubt.
I mean, the knock on that is the inactivity of Charlo. I think that if Charlo had been more active, I don't think anyone would be complaining. I don't think many people are complaining, but there are a significant amount of fans that are complaining, and I think rightfully so. But before we get into all that, again, man, Berlanga.
Yes.
Potential superstar or not, as far as I go. Skill-wise, talent-wise, no. Draw-wise, Puerto Rican American, maybe, you know, he starts, you know, coming out his mouth and being a little bit more vocal and, you know, attracting attention that way, like Broner did and others. But he's not that kind of guy. But, you know, bottom line, you know, I'm not saying the dude is a bum, but I'm saying that, you know, he has good power. Yeah. You know, he does know how to throw places punches well. But, you know, I think at this juncture, he has to make a significant improvement for me to see any real superstar potential.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. Superstar potential in Berlanga, I don't think he beats any of the top fighters at 168. Can he be competitive? Absolutely. I think he'll be competitive 6-7 rounds, but I think these fighters have more on their two belt than Berlanga has. And, you know, there was an interview by my man Dave X, Four Corners, my brother. He spoke to Berlanga the day before the fight, and he mentioned that he went back to the roots. He went back to the motherland. In fact, he lives in Puerto Rico, Berlanga. He's from New York City, but he lives in Puerto Rico. He's been training. He even had this young fighter with him, young kid, probably about 8, 9 years old. He's sponsoring him. He mentioned that when he wanted to go to, was it the Junior Olympics? Oh, man, it was a tournament. He had 0 sponsors. He said, my father had to sell cars. The bottom line is that he seemed very humble, is what I'm saying. He seemed more composed. He seemed more level-headed. And that, for me, showed in the ring Saturday night. It wasn't a top-tier performance, but the kid is still young, guys. We got to be also, you know, take that into account. He's a young kid. He's still learning. And I think
he's 26 years old.
Yeah, but he's
young,
20-something fights. What, 21?
He's at the age where he should be, you know, 2 years away from entering his prime.
Yeah, so I'll say this. As far as Berlanga, my closing thoughts on him, no superstar, but I did like to see the improvement. Yeah. Again, would like to see him throw the jab and be more vicious to the body, but that footwork too, like you mentioned, Dream, has to improve. Because he looks very flat-footed. Like you mentioned, cement. It's like he's walking in mud. And when you get to fight these fighters that are slicker, that move, they're just going to counter you and move out the way. So we'll see, man. We'll see what's in store for Edgar Berlanga. But overall, solid performance by him, and we shall see.
Also, on that card, we have the heavyweight matchup.
Oh man,
which was
man,
Kaunaki.
Oh yeah, I was
Tell
there.
us about that.
Wow, man. So that was the fight of the night, hands down. That fight had everybody off their seats. You had Joe Casamano, Sicilian from Connecticut, against, come on, man, anybody that's heavy on the New York City boxing scene, Adam Kanauki from Brooklyn, Polak, and he brings a contingent with him. They come out for him. He's one of the heavyweights that throw the most punches per round.
He's a local fan favorite.
Yeah, and he let his hands go. He's a fighter that when he's in there, you want to see him fight. He's not going to bore you guys. He's not a library. He comes to bring it, and that's why he did. But I know we spoke slightly off camera, and it might be time for Kaunaki to retire, man, because the punishment he has taken in the past and the punishment he took in this fight, I mean, his heart is Empire State Building big, man. This guy show heart, but that beating he took, man, that was a lot of punishment. It's scary.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's one of those guys that does boxing full time. He might be one of those guys who has another career, another job, and he also does boxing. For example, like Joe Smith out of Long Island, who was in the union. I believe he was a construction worker. But Adam Kaunaki doesn't have quite the athletic build of a Joe Smith, but he has the heart and he can fight. But I think he's a young guy. I don't want to see him take any more punishment because he's one of these. I guess kind of journeyman who had a journeyman career with not that many fights, and I don't like to see guys taking repeated punishment like that. Yeah, this is a dangerous sport. Now, Carlos El Caballo Bronco Adames on Showtime versus J-Rock Julian Williams out of Philadelphia. Carlos Adames, the Dominican fighter from Elias Piña. That's where he's from originally. They have him listed as fighting out of Santo Domingo, but he's from Elias Piña, which is a border town with Haiti. I was critical of Adames. I still am. I think that Adames. I was critical of him going in. I saw the talent. I saw the power. I saw the raw strength in him early, prior to the Teixeira loss. We lost to Teixeira, or however you pronounce his name. Prior to that, I saw him fight a few times, and I said, he needs to be more aggressive. He needs to throw more punches. He needs to have more of a game plan. And he lost to Teixeira. I guess he wasn't that aggressive. He didn't do enough, and Teixeira capitalized on that, the Brazilian fighter. Yes. Now he's coming on. He came off of 4 victories and I think 3 by knockout, and he fights Julian Williams, who we know is a very talented fighter, but is one of those guys showing that one fight he looks good, the other fight he doesn't. And in this fight, I actually think that he did. I think that he looked good. He fought well. I do have some knocks against the style that he chose to fight in, being that he was with Breadman Edwards, who is trainer of, or at least for his last fight, Caleb Plant. And I saw a J-Rock that was trying to do he's trying to do a Caleb Plant 2.0. And he's a guy that has power. So, he was showing a too much defense. I think he should have been a bit more aggressive. He landed good shots on Adames, and Adames felt those shots, believe me. Adames, I'm not big on him. I don't think he's a future superstar. I don't think that he's, I know at 160, it's almost a vacant weight division now, as everyone has moved to 168. So maybe he could pick up a title or two. I understand he's the interim, WBC champion, whatever that means.
He's an interim.
So,
it just means that he gets a chance at the real title.
Yeah. So, what I didn't like about Adames. What I did like about Adames is that he was more aggressive. He put his foot on the gas this fight compared to all the previous fights I've seen him in. He was much more aggressive and he believed in himself more. But why did he believe in himself more? Maybe because he thought, like many fighters think, that J-Rock is sweet. They seen him lose. They seen him get knocked out. And not to mention, remember, these guys know each other. Carlos Adames and Jason Rosario, Banana. They're both Dominican fighters. They grew up in the amateur tournaments over there. They know each other. And, I'm assuming they're friends. And from that, he said, you know what? My brother Jason did him like this. He's sweet. I could do him like this too. So he lost by knockout to Charlo. So I think he had that as motivation. But I want to see him do that against a fighter that he should be intimidated by. Is he gonna come out that aggressive? I like that he came out more aggressive, but I don't like that. I still didn't see a game plan, man. I saw a lot of freestyling from him. I didn't see a jab. I did not see a jab. He did not throw the jab. I was looking at that. He was throwing a lot of looping shots. Yeah. He was mixing it up well to the head and body. And, he put his foot on the gas. As far as the stoppage, I think that J-Rock is another fighter who in his short career has taken a lot of punishment. And it's not only that he's taken a lot of punishment, but he doesn't react well to punishment. And in his knockouts, not that you're supposed to react well to punishment, but in his knockout losses, he's looked ugly. Yeah. And I think this was no exception. He was throwing a punch when the referee jumped in, but at that time he was hit with a barrage of about 12 to 15 punches without any response, and he was out of it. I think it's better to be stopped early than late. I disagree with the actions of Breadman Edwards, who in the fight leading up to in the Benavidez fight, he was a gentleman to the Benavidez, and while they were disrespecting him, and I respected that about him. I said, well, this guy's is a cool dude. But in this, I guess he was feeling some kind of way and chose to lash out at the referee. Nah, Breadman, I think the stoppage was appropriate, and if you really care about your fighter, this is something that you won't complain about to that extent. So Carlos Adames, is he going to be a superstar? Do I see superstar potential in him? No, I think he's a solid fighter that could attain a world championship, but I don't think he would have it for long.
Yeah, you don't. All right. So So basically, man, what a fight! I mean, that was a good fight. Not fight of the year candidate type, but a good scrap. Both fighters came and they bring it.
It was a solid fight.
J-Rock, it's the more skilled fighter. But he didn't fight like he was the more skilled fighter. He fought like he got something to prove. Again, in boxing, you use your advantages when you're in that ring. Plus, Adames is the younger, fresher fighter. He hasn't really took punishment like J-Rock has, because we've seen J-Rock stopped in the past.
You think like he fought? You think he fought like he has something to prove, or you think that because I think he was I think he was overly defensive. I think that when he had to be offensive because he had to make this dude respect.
So when you look at early in the fight, he's boxing. He's boxing well. He's moving. But yes, the pressure from Adames. And what was the X factor in this whole fight was the body attack of Adames. My goodness, bro, his body attack was relentless. And that's what actually, now that I really think about it, that's what stopped J-Rock from moving. Because he just couldn't. Those body punches did not stop. And that, to me, shows me that at 160, Adames can beat anybody. Because once you start that body attack, you can have an iron chin. You don't have an iron liver. You understand? You have fighters, Timothy Bradley, Andre Ward. We've seen it with the Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis. And I'd rather get punched where instead of a body shot. I'd rather take a punch to the face. And he's going to do a lot of damage at 160 because ain't really killers up there. There's just one boogeyman. That's Jenabek. I'm not going to try to say his last name, but he's the Kazakhstanian that fought on ESPN about a month or two ago. And he is a world. He has now with Charlo going up, he's the only world titleist at 160. So that's gonna be the fight that everybody's gonna want because it's gonna be action packed. But back to the fight of J-Rock and Adames, you're right. A lot of looping punches. He has an awkward style, Adames, right? And of course, he's trained by Bob Santos, who seems like he trains all the Dominican fighters.
Right now, he is.
Yeah.
And I have a bone to pick with him. Out of the Dominican fighters, me being Dominican, I've never been big on Dominican fighters because I've never had to be big on Dominican fighters because they've never really been. None have really reached superstar potential. Even Juan Guzman, who to me was probably the best Dominican fighter in my generation that I've ever seen, never reached a superstar level, but he was a very good fighter.
Very skilled.
I think that Bob Santos said in the telecast, they mentioned that Bob Santos said that Carlos Adames is the best fighter he ever worked with, not currently, ever worked with. And they said that's saying a lot in his 40-year experience with, and I think that's his opinion. I think that's a little disrespectful to another Dominican fighter who I think is the real deal, and that's my man Hector, the android, El Androide Garcia, who, as you guys know, gave Gervonta Davis a lot of fits, man. He fought a great fight. I was very proud of him in that fight, even in the loss. And he also upset your boy from
Brooklyn, Chris
from
Colbert.
Brooklyn, with the funny hair, Chris Colbert, who was a very good boxer, a lot of skill, but no power whatsoever. He couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. No disrespect to you as
it is what it is
in boxing terms.
Yeah, but before you finish that, because I also want to get into the stoppage, and my opinion on that was that I don't like, just like you, I agree with it. I don't think, because if he wouldn't got him out in the 9th dream, the 10th or the 11th he was gonna go out. J-Rock wasn't gonna finish that fight. He was not going to finish that fight, bro. He was out on his feet. You could see it. He was taking punishment. So, like you mentioned, it's rather earlier than late. So, to me, the referee did the right thing. I get it in the moment, Brett, man. I get it, J-Rock. You in your feelings because you're already at that tail end of your career. This might be it for him.
If I was in his corner, I wouldn't have been upset. Especially looking back at it. Maybe in the moment you might be a little unhappy, but at the end of the day, you got to protect your fighters, and you got to look out for the health and the well-being of a young man like Julian Williams, who has reached the pinnacle in the sport, becoming unified champion. So he did do that, and he has those accolades to rest his heels on, and if he chooses to retire young, he did it. He became world champion, unified. That not too many people could say that. No. Props to him for putting on a good fight, and for showing heart like he always does.
Yeah, J-Rock is a cool dude, man. I met him a couple of times. I spoke with him. He's a good guy, man.
But Garcia is the best Dominican fighter today, in my opinion. The most skilled.
I think I'll have to agree with that, and we shall see, right? Because that's the beauty about it. He's going to keep fighting Adames, and we're going to see 2-3 years down the line, we could come back to that and say, all right, listen. But we entitled to our opinion. And based on the eye test, yes, I think Garcia has the most skill.
I think he's the most well-rounded fighter.
Correct, of the Dominican fighters.
Currently. And, they wanted to hype up Elvis Rodriguez, who's not a bad fighter, and he seems to be making improvements once again. They got another guy, Edwin de los Santos, who's gonna be fighting Joseph Adorno. That's another up and coming Dominican fighter. You have Carlos Adames. You have Puello, who was a world champion. Was he stripped of the championship?
Correct. He got caught. Actually, it was supposed to be Raleigh versus him. Yeah, but that's when Barroso was the fill-in.
He's another Dominican fighter that rose up, and I think he achieved the championship on the same night as Hector Garcia when he beat Colbert. But I don't think he's definitely not at my top of the list of Dominican fighters. I don't think he's that good of a fighter. But let's see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. He'll come back and have a good performance and regain his title. Supposedly he was using what he was using in order to be more fertile and get his wife pregnant. So, and the good news is that I heard his wife did become pregnant. So if he did use it, it worked. And I hope that he didn't really cheat. But at the end of the day, when you get caught, you get caught.
Yeah, I just think out of those fighters, the Dominican fighters, to me, Puello, he's the yellow starburst out the pack. The flavor nobody wants, nobody cares about, just gives it away. Nonetheless, he was a world champion, so I have to salute him for that, but I just don't think he's going to really be anything moving forward.
Lubin versus Arias. I enjoyed the fight. Lubin is a guy that, I was never big on, but you know what, man? I really enjoyed watching him perform, and I really enjoyed that piston-like, but yet stinging jab that he was putting out from a southpaw jab. That usually southpaws paw with the jab. They don't really give you that jab that'll pop your head back. But I think he did a very good job, and especially for a guy who underwent the punishment that he underwent in the Fundora fight. It looked like the kind of fight showing that when you see a fighter go through that, you say he's never gonna be the same no more.
Correct.
And maybe he had the proper, we could say he had the proper opponent in front of him in order to look good. But, Luis Arias, not a great fighter, but he did come to fight. I think he has a bit more power than his record suggests, and he kept looking for that right hook, that overhand right, but never really got there. And when it did, it didn't do much damage. I think Lubin put on a very good performance. I think he put on a career invigorating performance.
Yes.
And I like to see him back in the ring, man.
Now, yeah, he needed that. He definitely needed that win, man. And it's not, and all right, we know Arias is a tough fighter, man. He's a fighter that comes and he brings it. And what I saw from Lubin, right, that Fundora fight, you just see, like you said, those are fights that takes years out your career. But seeing Lubin, he looked fresh. He looked good. And even if
physically and mentally.
There you go. So it's like, wow. This guy, he's a player at 154 still. Bro, he only has 2 losses, Charlo and Fundora.
Very good fighters.
And those are very good fighters, man. So Lubin is a threat at 154 to anybody.
I think that the fight to make is him versus unless he wants to, he there's some bigger opportunities in sight. The guy that knocked out Fundora,
Mendoza.
I think that Erickson Lubin versus Mendoza would be a very good fight. And you know what? That can give Lubin a chance to really redeem himself by beating the guy who knocked the guy out, who knocked him out. So, hey, man, if there's no opportunities, if there's nothing else looming for Mendoza, I would like to see that fight.
Sign me up. Sign me up. Guys, Mendoza, Lubin? Yeah, I don't think none of us say no to that.
We also had Joshua Franco versus Kazuto Ioka.
Yeah, a rematch.
The rematch, the second fight in Japan, which Ioka won. Franco, the less talented brother out of the two.
Yes.
We know that his brother, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, one of my favorite fighters in boxing today. Just an overall skilled, just a splendid specimen of a fighter. And he looked he even looked physically strong in his last fight. His back was cut up. Little guy is good.
He's
good.
different. He's different.
And if he continues on that path and performing the way he does, even with a broken jaw, I think he's definitely going to be on the pound-for-pound list. So Joshua Franco, he came in 6 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That shows us that 2 things or 3 things. 1, he didn't take this fight seriously. 2, he had health issues. That's all I could really say, because for a guy like him to come in 6 pounds overweight,
it's a lot.
That's a lot. So there was definitely something going on there.
Lack of discipline, maybe personal issues, or simply health issues, and he couldn't make the weight, especially having to go all the way to Japan to fight. But this is the fight game. This is if you're an artist, an athlete, that's part of the game. You travel. You got to go where the money is, where they paying you, where you're required to be.
So that's that.
Yeah, I was shocked. A lot of people were shocked. But hey, man, salute to him, champ. If that's the decision you want to make, it's your health, man. No one can say otherwise. And, I wish you the best in retirement. If you decide to come back, man, the boxing world will welcome you with open arms.
All right, man. There's something that I promised the fans
Yes.
in our last show, and that is a preview. Because it's something that we have to talk about, that I've been fiending to talk about. Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, announced, about 3 weeks ago now and changed, almost a month ago.
Yeah.
It's going down July 29th in Las Vegas. Sean, this is the most anticipated matchup in boxing in the last decade. I would say decade because...
when was Pacquiao Mayweather? That was the one.
That was in this decade. I think that was the past decade.
That was the past.
Yeah,
this decade.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're in the 2020. So you're right.
Yeah.
Hands down.
And it's going to take a lot to top that. We understand that numbers-wise, glitz and glamour-wise, Garcia or Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia was a fight of more casual notoriety, right?
Yes.
The casual fans, your cousin that works at the nail salon was talking about it.
Yes.
Your boss at work, people that don't know boxing.
Yes.
Ryan has an Instagram following. Tank is known both inside and outside of the ring in the hip hop culture,
Yes, big.
within us minorities especially, or people of color. But this fight may not be as popular as that one with the glitz and glamour.
Yes.
But this is a much better fight, in a more even fight than that fight. This is a real fight. A real fight. Listen, man. Terrence Crawford, and I said that he was going to be the favorite.
Yes.
But he's not my favorite. In this fight, and we're a month out.
Yeah.
We're going to do another show just on that fight.
Yes.
Errol Spence's skill and versatility, in my opinion, is underrated. I think that Crawford's too light in the ass for Errol Spence. And I think people are going to see why on that night. Listen. People say it's a toss-up fight. It's 50-50. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that, like Errol Spence has been saying, he's going to break Crawford's will. He's going to break him mentally. And I think he's going to break him physically. I think that Errol Spence is just too big, too strong for Terrence Crawford, who has been hurt at lower weights by guys like Gamboa. I seen him get touched up by Hank Lundy. I seen him get dropped and it wasn't counted by Kavalauskas, the Mean Machine. I think that his chin does have a question mark on it. Not that he's chinny. I think it has a question mark on it. And I think that's the wrong question to ask Errol Spence, because this guy is going to break you down to the body and then to the head. I don't think that Crawford could escape the punishment that Errol Spence plans to strategically, with skill, talent, determination, and will, apply on him. People might cite, Terrence is, he's like a mongoose in there. He switches from left to right. He's athletic. He's also a good boxer with good fundamentals. I think fundamentally speaking, you talk about throwing punches correctly, placing them correctly, blocking after punches, being more on having your weight distributed properly. I think Errol is more fundamental than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, people confuse what Roy Jones did with fundamentals. Roy Jones was also very talented athletically, but when you fight a guy who's talented athletically and boxing wise, like Errol Spence, that's a whole nother assignment you got there. So me, as a month away, I'm going with Errol Spence, and I'm going with Errol Spence by mid to round stoppage.
Okay, I mean, wow. I mean that was definitely a nice breakdown of the fight. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna go too deep into it because again, that show is when I want to just really unleash. But I would say, right?
Now, I made a pick though. You got to make a pick.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm gonna get in the batter's box. You know, I'm going. I'm gonna take a swing at this. I do. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. That's a 50-50 fight. Just real quick, when I just look at both fighters, I'm an Errol Spence fan. I'll be rooting for Errol Spence the night of the fight. He has they both have very good chance. To me, I think one thing that people forget, Spence, he fights in a straight line, right? When it comes to footwork, Crawford, he moves better. His feet, he moves his feet better than Spence does. Now
We saw Spence do that against Garcia.
Yeah,
Against the smaller Garcia.
yeah, but Garcia, the thing
Yeah,
is,
but he remember he chose to box him, and that's what he was doing.
Yeah,
He was
yeah, he
moving
did.
and
He stood
pivoting,
there.
pivoting. He outboxed him, and he said, "I'm gonna go back to bulldozing because this ain't fun no more."
Yeah.
So he showed people, yo, I can outbox somebody.
he can. No, I'm not saying no. Like you said, fundamentally sound, right? There's no argument. Spence is the more sound fighter. He's the way he throws his punches.
I think there is an argument. I think people are gonna argue that
It's
Crawford
fine.
Crawford is.
It's fine, but Crawford, I'll tell you this. The thing that I've been looking, and I know because my conscience is telling me, and I've been trying to be in denial, but Crawford has this mean streak that no fight in boxing has. No fighter, right? He's to me, he is the number one finisher in boxing. And I don't think many gonna make an argument with that. He can hurt you in the first round. He can hurt you in the 12th round. His power does carry. Now,
Well, I think
that's the points you was making. Hold on. I'm gonna let you do your thing. My problem is this with Crawford. If he decides to box on the outside, that's gonna be his best chance. But as you see Crawford fight in all his fights, he's hard-headed, he's stubborn. And what I mean by that is that, you Spence? You the big shark on the block? I'm going to show you I'm the bigger. He's going to fight and bang with Spence at times.
And that's going to be to his detriment.
And that's
He
what I'm
gonna get his
telling
ass
you.
whooped.
To me, that's where it could go wrong. That's if he decides and chooses to go that route. Is he? I don't know. But I know one thing about Crawford. He's stubborn. So at times, best believe, guys, that fight is going to be a war. As of right now, I'm slightly picking Crawford split decision. I'll break it down way more when we get to the week of or the week before when we have the show.
All right, more people are going to be on your side because I think more people are going with Crawford and even the betting odds.
But I'm just saying who I'm going.
No. I'm
Spence,
talking about your pick.
Picking,
Your pick as an analyst.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of more analysts are gonna lean towards Terrence Crawford, who they say has a mean streak, who they say is a great finisher. I think Crawford is a great finisher when he has you hurt. Spence is a great finisher when you're fresh because he breaks you down and finishes you, right? His goal is to finish you in the fight no matter what, and he does that strategically. Now, when we compare welterweight resumes, it's incomparable. It's incomparable what Errol Spence has done at welterweight as opposed to what Crawford has done. He hasn't done anything. He fought Kavaliauskas. Tough, rugged fighter. Not a
Joe
top,
Horn.
Not Jeff Horn.
Horn.
Not a top fighter. Errol Spence has fought Danny Garcia.
Sean Porter.
Yeah, he beat Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, and Yordanis Ugas, amongst other fighters that I can cite. He has a much more solid resume.
Yeah. I don't think that's for debate.
Welterweight. People, look how people say, look how Crawford stopped Porter. Listen, you guys saw the fight. You guys know what happened. Me personally, I thought Porter was, if not doing a great job, I thought he was slightly ahead. And,
He was winning that fight.
And they even told Crawford in the
You
corner
losing.
that someone had told them.
Bo Mac.
They're saying you up. They saying he up.
Yeah. He said what?
They're saying he's up. So then he came out, did what he had to do. Now, as far as early stoppages, that was an early stoppage. Again, we went over it on the last show.
Yeah.
His dad chose to stop the fight more because he was mad at that he wasn't doing what he wanted him to do. Come on, Sean Porter is a dog. He's a true champion. You should have let that man finish his fight because not only is he a good fighter, he's a dangerous fighter. So in the dog fight, the dog comes out. He didn't let him be a dog. I think that fight, you can't go by. Listen, Errol Spence beat Yordenis Ugas in the amateurs, right? I mean, in the he beat the brakes off of him now in the professional rankings, and styles make fights, right? And Yordenis Ugas beat Crawford in the amateurs, so Yordenis Ugas has said that there's no way that Crawford is going to be able to put up with everything that Errol Spence brings. So, we could look at both things. Okay, one is the amateur, one is the professional, but styles make fights.
Yeah. Don't give him too much, though. We got another show for this. But
Yeah.
you could finish it off.
Yeah, but I think, Errol's not a guy that talks a lot. I think his hands are going to talk for him. And I'm seeing a lot of jitteriness and nervousness from Crawford. He knows what he got himself into. And honestly, it ain't the fight people think it's going to be.
All right.
I think it's going to be more one-sided. I think it's going to be like, yo, you know what? He was a little bit too big, a little bit too strong. And that's it. All
right. And before we end it, just real quick, just so that you know what's at stake, right? The win of this fight is going to be the first fighter to unify 4 belts at the welterweight division. We only have one fighter at welterweight to be a unified champion, undisputed, which is Zab Judah, 3-belt era, right? These fighters are going to do it in the 4-belt era. So the win of this is going to make history. And they 2 future Hall of Famers, but this just adds more to that resume.
Yeah, I think Spence is midway through his career as to where Crawford, I think he's on the, not the tail end, but he's on the second half of his career. Anyway, that's it for the round table. Tune in and don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We're also on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and of course here on YouTube. Anyway, man, we'll check you guys out.
1.